Hey everybody, Tim Adams here for another Church Tech Hangout on Air. First, you may notice I'm in a different environment. I'm actually got caught down in Portland today, so I wasn't able to make it back home to get this party started. So dropped off at my old church, sitting in their youth room, so that explains what's happening there. Today we're going to be talking, well actually Paul is going to be doing most of the talking today, about the beta release of ProPresenter 6, not 5. That was just announced, I believe it was last week, and Paul, as always, quick to hop on that bandwagon. So he's had about a week to look over ProPresenter 6 in its beta release, and he's going to walk us through what is new, and then we're going to just see where the conversation goes from there. We already have some questions from Betty Jane that we're going to be covering, and if you have your questions, definitely send them in. We'll see if we can stump Paul. So with that, I'm going to throw it over to Paul and let him take it away.
Okay, so first off, you'll notice you're not seeing me. I'm sharing ProPresenter 6 on the screen, so you can see my mouse here, depending on the size of the screen that you have it blown up to. But here, there we go. So one thing that I noticed immediately about ProPresenter 6 is that its layout and feel is very similar to ProPresenter 5. So it's not like the change from ProPresenter 3 to ProPresenter 4 and from 4 to 5 where there was major. It's very similar. So that's one good thing. If you're familiar with 5, 6 feels like they've just improved 5, which you may know I love ProPresenter 5. So here we are in ProPresenter 6, and the very first thing I want to show you is if you have a stage display, and while I'm at my home office, I do have 3 monitors set up because I do ProPresenter tutorials, and you got to do that for the stage display. So a lot of times you're not going to have 3 monitors in front of you like I do. So it would really be nice if you could see the stage display to make sure that it's doing what you want it to do. Well, in the past, you'd kind of been out of luck. Here, let me go to this because I want to reveal that here. Let me clear the background. So here we are, toggle the stage display, I can do that, and now I have a preview of the stage display over here just like I would have a preview of the main display. So if I just have one computer, I can see any of the 3 displays from this one computer screen. You know, I can make this larger if I need to, or smaller, etc. So that's a pretty cool feature. Another thing that I've heard people say is, you know, on the stage display, the pastor would really like to see what's on the main display. And before, we really couldn't do that all that well. But let me show you, since I've got this stage display up in the preview, I'm just going to add this background in, and you'll notice that when I do that, there is a preview. Now, another thing that I just changed that I really shouldn't have is icon right there. That is an icon that automatically, when this slide is changed, I've set it to, if we go here into the Add Queue palette, another new feature here. The queue palette has some pretty cool things, but this, again, with stage display, is a stage display queue. So I can just drag that on there and have the stage display automatically change, in this case, to the music layout because I'm on a hymn. So let's say this was the ending hymn. I could, or the very beginning hymn, I could have the stage display change automatically. Here, let me just clear all, because this is beta, but it should change to a music display, and for some reason it seems to be stuck in the pastor display mode, but once they get all these little bugs ironed out, that's another really cool feature as well, that when you click on a particular slide, if it has that slide stage display cue, it will change to this appropriate stage display. So you can have one for the pastor. When you click on the sermon notes, it goes there. For the worship leader, one for that person, and when you click on the first slide of your song, it changes there. That's something really cool. Let's also look at the editor window because it's added a few cool new features. So I'm going to right click, go to edit slide. So right now you can see one of the things, and that is these guides. So just like Photoshop, you have guides in. So if you wanted to tweak exactly where the guides are so that you can do some formatting, you can do that there. You'll also notice that there are additional icons up here. So the first icon was there before, that was there before. This is new. This is for drawing. But not just drawing lines, Bezier curves, which that's kind of hard to see. Wouldn't it be great if I could make that larger? So I think that's, my computer might be a little laggy because I'm doing a Hangout and doing this all at the same time. Let me toggle that back and pause this. Maybe clear the background, see if we can. Here. That is images. Oh, I shouldn't have clicked that. We'll watch the beach ball of death for half a second until I click cancel. Okay, now this HTML, this is not to add in a CSS document to change the look and feel of your slides. In fact, it's something else really neat where you can add in an actual seconds every 30 seconds every minute. So that's something kind of fun as well. This right here, though, is really cool. So here, let me click cancel here. Get out of that. So one of the big features that's been asked for a lot in ProPresenter is scrolling text, like a marquee type of screen. That's what this one does. So little text with an arrow indicating that you're moving. So we can just type in, let's see here, special thanks to Sister Matilda for today's flowers, or whatever. I don't know. You would want to put a space after that, because if it loops immediately, it's going to put the S right after the last thing there. But maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe you want to loop with the delay. So when you click that, and here, let's show that. So you see going across the screen, we can like that. but that's how that would work. So with the delay, it waits until all the text gets off the screen and then it starts it over again. That's a cool feature, but the one that I really like is, and I haven't gotten this to work quite yet, link to URL where you can do RSS feeds. So you could have potentially your church website get the RSS off the church website, and if there's an update to the church website, it would show up any new stories immediately in your pre-service loop with you doing nothing whatsoever just by having that in there. So I think that that's a pretty cool option. There's also a file where you could choose a text file. But that's not it. There's still more features. If we go here to this little transition looking, choose something, we can choose a build-in or build-out transition for each thing. So let's say we want to add a push, and that was on this website. So if I click on show, you'll see that that just pushes in from the left-hand side. Now let's say I want to go over here and put the text crawler here. Let's make this so that it all fits on my screen. So I could animate the Bezier paths. Let's get rid of some of those actually, because kind of annoying. So I've got the HTML element, or the text element, which is underneath that. Actually, I want that. So I can have that go in separately as well. So let's have that build out. So let's have that leave with a flip. Now again, this isn't very artistic, but I just want you to see all the things that are available. And then when I go to the next one, the next thing here, and here. So I can animate each element individually here. That's really good, again, for the pre-service loops. I can't remember where I have their example. I was looking for that before and ran out of time to locate it. So I really like that as a feature where if you're used to building slides in Keynote, or if you're used to building slides in PowerPoint, this enables you to do that as well. Let me look at some of the other things on the list. I mentioned the Q palette. You can toggle that, element level transitions. Let's go back in here, because this is something that I haven't actually done much about. But so wouldn't it be great if we could actually crop this? So we just double click on this, and then I believe if memory, oh, that's the text. If I double click on the appropriate thing, I thought that's how it was done. Let me see here. Nope, right there.
Oh, I know what you're trying to do. You're trying.
Yeah, I'm trying to actually crop it, and I can't remember exactly how to do that. That's doing a size.
I thought if you double clicked on it, it would give you that other bounding box or whatever.
Yeah, that's what I did. I thought too. Maybe it has to be an image. Maybe it won't do it with the website.
Yeah, that's
Um,
probably true. So while
so
you're doing that, let me explain what you're trying to do. So what what we call it in the post-production world is a mask, is essentially what he's doing. So that's taking a shape of a certain size, okay? So let's say that, and you can crop into an image, which means that the image is much larger and you're cropping into a certain part of it, or you can scale it down so that you're like zooming out, but all within that shape. And this is some pretty advanced level stuff that we're getting in a worship presentation software, which is pretty crazy. Very powerful. It allows you to, yeah, there we go. It allows you to kind of adjust what you're showing the viewer. Um, so you don't always have to show everything. You can control to a certain degree what exists within that what we call a bounding box.
yep. So when you get this, you'll notice it turn black. So I have this. I can make it larger or smaller with the white handles, but if I double click on them, I get the black bounding box, as Tim said. And if that's matched up to the size of the white ones, oops, if that's matched up to the size of the white ones, then it's within that. And if it's larger, then it starts to mask off or crop out the excess. So this is my logo that I just put in. But you'll see that it's like it's got a transparent invisibility cloak around it, and anywhere that I move that around, it hides behind. So you can imagine if you had a picture that was portrait, but you needed it to fill landscape, you could do something like this, or vice versa. So that's another cool little feature that was in there. Let's see here. Let's click off of that. Ooh, Telestrator. So let me go to my message notes here. And so in ProPresenter, here we go. Yeah, so in ProPresenter 5, they added these bulleted list builds. So 3 things to remember: Jesus is God, God is love, and from the high priestly prayer in John, God the Father loves you as much as he loves the Son. That's what Jesus actually said, even though I find it hard to believe. I trust that Jesus isn't lying. So that's in there. So anyway, now if I were to bring up the Telestrator, because let's say that I'm the pastor and I want to emphasize parts of that, I can. Let's say that I want to do it in red, so I can underline that, no problem. Let's say I want to draw a circle around something. I think this is the circle. Yep, that's the circle. I'm used to doing it in Photoshop where you start in the upper left-hand corner, and in this you start in the center. So that's one thing that's a little bit different. This is kind of a hide everything other than what's in the circle view kind of mode. So this would be great for like a map. And good old laser pointer. That's not a very good color here. Let's put it up against the background. So let's not make it purple. Let's make it yellow. A yellow laser. When's the last time you used a yellow laser? Probably never, but this is just simulated, so someone in an online campus could actually see the laser as opposed to the pastor shooting that against the screen, and the only way to do it is have it show up on the camera by shooting the screen, which is less than ideal. Tim,
Paul,
did you say something?
I'm wondering, how does the Telestrator output? Can you output it to different outputs, or is it just it goes out on the main feed? Like, is it its own layer? Would be another way of asking that, or do we know?
I don't know. Good question. I do know it's its own layer in that this is something that one of the Renewed Vision people commented on when he saw my tutorial of me just playing with this the very first time, because I immediately went to the next slide. You'll notice that those lines are still there, which I'm sure as they were making it, they thought that would make sense, but you need to click the X. So there was some talk that they may change that so that the Telestrator stays on the slide that you're on. Because if you're drawing around something and then that something isn't there anymore, it doesn't make sense. Or maybe that'll be an option, I don't know. So that I like the Telestrator. I hadn't thought about having that in there, but I know one of our pastors likes to draw on a whiteboard because of the theory that when people watch you create something, they are much more likely to be engaged with it. So this enables a pastor to draw on the screen. So you could just have, you know, like a white screen, and you could draw anything you wanted to it. And there's talk that the new app will allow that to happen from an iPad. So you could send the pastor up to the front with his iPad, and then he can draw on the screen and all of the slide notes. So only as he wants to interact with the screen, he can. So that's just, or sheet, depending on your denomination. So I think that that's a kind of an interesting little feature as well.
Yeah, one of the things that I liked, or that I asked you, I think, in a private hangout, was whether or not we could, as the creation process of the presentation is happening, can we actually kind of do the Telestrator ahead of time and like put that in as part of the build? Because I think that would be kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. I don't think they envisioned having that, but there is a feature that I think would enable you to do something like that, and that is, let me find it here. Edit, Actions, Record Output. So you could practice just that one little bit and create it as a video in ProPresenter. So when I click Record Output, I can output it as a decent quality file. So ProRes 422 LT, 422, 422 HQ, 422 proxy. So you can get a really good, say you have a video camera with, and you think, man, wouldn't it be great if we could have a recording of what's going on at this screen, and then I can just edit those in Final Cut Pro, for example, which has a multi-camera mode, or I think Premiere Pro has it as well. So I could just edit that on the fly, and as the slides change, cut to the slides. As they get done, go back. So that's a fun thing as well. Let's see.
You know, one thing with that, Paul, that I'm curious
else?
about, just off the top of my head, is if ProPresenter is outputting in a non-video-friendly resolution, how that works.
Well, I mean,
Maybe it
I
doesn't
think
matter.
so. If you've got a larger resolution, I think you could scale it down. So if your resolution is, I don't know, larger than 1080p, but you're recording in 1080p, I would think that you could scale that down. It would depend on your editor. You know, maybe iMovie isn't going to do that very well, but something more professional, you could probably play around with that. But doing it the other way around would probably be difficult. One thing that I asked for, this is the only thing that I asked for back in October when I recorded a show saying, here are things I would like to see in ProPresenter 6. None of them made the cut, but that's okay because I didn't tell anybody. I just put it on YouTube. And that is social. If you go to social, before we had Twitter, and it was just the Twitter app, they have added Instagram as well. So you can connect your Instagram and let's see here. Let's do a search for something. Church tech. And we'll see if there's any sort of Instagram things that come up. Actually, let me make that into a hashtag. Yeah, here we go. So I can show that now, and let me turn on my output and click show now. Clear all. Show now. So I should be seeing this, but for some reason I am not. But that might be one of those things that shows up, might be a bug in the beta, I don't know yet. It could be that it doesn't like Google Plus Hangouts running concurrently. Seems like as I was playing around with these features on some of my screencasts that I got that to work, but I can't recall. So Instagram, that's something that they did, and so that would be nice if you want a church at a conference or maybe an Easter egg hunt. Maybe that would be coming up in the next few days, and you had a hashtag, you know, he is risen hunt, I don't know, whatever cheesy Christian title your church gives it. You could do a search on that hashtag and have those show up during service, whether you did the Easter egg hunt, let's say Saturday morning, and then if you had a Saturday evening service, you could show those. If you have a Sunday morning service, you could show it then, that kind of thing, or even the next week, whatever. So let me shut that down and make sure that, yep, okay, that's working. So that is some of the main features that have been added. Let me scroll back and check my list. I haven't tested out all my favorite features that were in ProPresenter 5 to make sure that they didn't get killed or anything. But let's text. One thing, let's see here. Let's do this. So this is a video of me. Okay, and let me kill the volume on that. This is actually in my right here. We have the normal loop, stop. We now have a next, so at the end of this you can have it just set to automatically go to the next video. Soft loop. If you have a worship background that does not loop, let's say that it starts and stops at an odd point, you can choose soft loop, and when you do soft loop, when you get to the end of the video, it basically adds a cross dissolve on the end of it so that it doesn't jump back to the beginning, it just cross dissolves to the beginning. So we should see that here in, oh, let me try. Computer just doing all these things. Okay, here we go. So it's a mid-2010 MacBook Pro. I don't think Apple intended it to run software from 2015 and a Google Hangout all at the same time. So 8, 7, 6, 5. Come on. Seems to be running a little slower. 3, 2, 1, and I expect a cross dissolve here in just a second to cross dissolve back into the beginning of this video. So if you want to use nature footage behind your worship, for example, this would be a great transition to use the soft loop, because it would automatically cross dissolve on itself to give you a soft, even look. And it seems to have paused for some reason. Don't know, but so that is another thing. Oh, contiguous. Just a second here. Okay, so this contiguous view, not new. What is new is we have this little notes area. So let's see, I'm just going to type some junk in there. And when I minimize that, here, actually I want to click that instead. The notes are available in contiguous view. So if that note was, hey, don't forget to start the pastor's countdown clock, or don't forget the pastor said to send him a reminder note when he walks up to do thus and so, that would be in there, and that shows up until we go to the next item. So say it was joyful, joyful here, and I'll scroll past it, and now that's gone. So all of other fun things that you can do. The new reflow presentation existed on ProPresenter 5, but now it is there on ProPresenter 6. but we also have previews over here. So as you're reflowing the presentation here, let me go to Mighty Fortress is Our God. So our helper, he amid the flood. If I wanted to insert a slide break right there, in the previous version of reflow presentation, you wouldn't see what that looks like. But I'm going to click Insert Slide Break, and now I have that, and we can see, oh, I added in an extra space. So now I can just hit backspace and make that go away. So now I know exactly what it looks like without getting out of reflow presentation mode, only to have to get back in it. So that's a helpful feature as well. The scheduler, I talked to a church that nearly bought different software because it did not have the scheduler view. Now you have this, so you can say at a certain time, a certain slide in a certain presentation will fire. So let's say your church service starts at 9 a.m. At 9 a.m., the worship background starts. So that's a cool feature as well. Let's see here. I think that, oh, the Bibles. Real quick, I'll touch on this. The Bibles feature, let me clear this, has been rebuilt from the ground up to use the YouVersion Bible, which supports colored text. So colored text is particularly important in the New Testament, say where the Lord Jesus Christ himself speaks. If you wanted to use a red letter edition of text, you could do that. So here we are in King James. This is John 3:16 and 17. You'll notice not so much red, but if I go in here to the slide options, there is preserve font color as an option. So once I do that, oh, automatically, that's because this is all Jesus talking. So it automatically changes. Here, let's put it on a contrasting background. It's a little harder to see. Let me put it on white. So John 3:16 and 17. Just like always, you can change between versions, things like that.
Assuming you have them installed.
Right, exactly. In this case, I don't, because this is
Your beta.
this might be a helpful feature too. I haven't checked if that's available in Pro 5. Is that I can get into worship, do my regular worship thing, right? So I'm going, and then Brother Barney gets up to speak, and he needs to read John 3:16 and 17. Then I just go down here, and then let's say that needs to be concluded with the next verse. I just click on the next verse of the song. So it could be there's an instrumental where there's some scripture, and then you go back. That's a good way to do that. That I don't know if that's new to Pro 6, but that's something I accidentally stumbled upon just the other day.
I got a curveball question for you.
Yeah, sure.
Betty is wondering if you can display multiple languages of scriptures on one screen.
And I know I could put in multiple text boxes. I could do it manually. I don't know if I could do multiple in the Bible app. Here, let's see what I can do. Let's see if there is a... let's go to the free ones.
There's Vietnamese.
Let's install the Vietnamese one, shall we?
Sure. Look how fast that is.
Yeah. So it takes it a second to process. Okay. So I can do that. Then I want to show it in Vietnamese. And if I do that...
Your poor computer, man.
Yeah, it doesn't like doing all this.
So everybody, if you're watching this, Paul does take donations for a new computer. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, absolutely would love that.
Or if you shop on Amazon, you can actually contribute through your shopping, I believe. Is that right?
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so you buy what you normally buy at Amazon, but he's got a special link that I don't know how exactly it works, but somehow you get money from their shopping.
Yeah, if you go to, I think it's trinitydigitalmedia.com/Amazon, that'll take you, that's a redirect that takes you through my affiliate link. So
help a brother out, guys.
yeah.
Wow, that's really taking a long time.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if it's like preloading the entire Bible.
Yeah. When I my initial reactions, I did this exact same thing, only with the King James. The guy from the programmer I talked to from Renewed Vision said it shouldn't take that long. So it might be something either in the age of my computer, which I told him all that, or it could be that it's something beta.
Right.
So there is a new beta version out that when I fired up Pro 6 tonight, it said, hey, do you want to upgrade it? And I thought, just in case it breaks something that I want to show, let's say no.
Right.
And we'll go from there. So
I would say the answer to Betty's question is you very likely can, but not within the Scripture engine itself. You probably want to build that out separately and well ahead of time.
Right. So.
Oh, here's a question for you. I think you've done a pretty good job of covering what's new. I mean, there are many more things, but they're really just incremental improvements that we could spend a couple hours going over. But one of the questions that Betty had in our chat, and you're not able to see that right now, I don't think. So she was asking essentially, how do you preview inside ProPresenter without sending it to the output? And I am so rusty with ProPresenter, I couldn't answer it in the chat. So I know that there is a way to do it, and I think a lot of it is doing the work ahead of time so that when you are live, you're good to go. But if you need to make a live change and preview it, can you do that? I think is her question.
Yeah, there's there's a couple of things. Like, for example, more than once I've been in a situation where I noticed a typo in the song. So let's say it's right here. I normally go to Quick Edit, and that gives us kind of a general idea. And let's say I needed to get rid of that extra space. Whatever. So that gives me an idea. So one thing that I really like is, I think it's Command 0. You'll see over here this little thing. What that means is I have turned off my control of the main screen. Why would I want to do that? To give, now if I go over to stage display, I'm actually advancing it on the stage display, but not on the main screen. So I'm still on the scripture, but I'm giving the band a heads up. So that's a couple of things. It's not exactly what you asked, though. I just hit Command 0 to give me back control over the main screen. So now I'm back. So I don't think that's exactly what she had in mind, but those are a couple of the features off the top of my head that, depending on the situation, may give you what you want. You can probably go into the editor, things like that as well.
Yeah, so you can edit offline, if you will, without it affecting the live output. And so that's
Right.
something that, as far as I know, PowerPoint and Keynote do not give you the ability to do. I'm not sure about Easy Worship. I've never actually used it. But that may be something that's unique to ProPresenter. I don't know. Paul, do you know?
Yeah, it's been a while since I've used Easy Worship. We switched from Easy Worship before 2009 came out, like when they were promised a little longer than anticipated. We went to a different software, so I'm not going to tell you what that one was because I don't want to disparage their work, but it wasn't Easy Worship and it wasn't ProPresenter. So we went to that. It wasn't Media Shout either, by the way. So those are kind of the big guns. Proclaim hadn't been invented yet, so it wasn't that. So we went to this other software, and then we went to ProPresenter 3, and we've been at ProPresenter 3 through version 4, 5, and now 6 is in beta. I'm hoping we'll be able to upgrade to 6 once that gets stable. So,
Yeah.
as you've seen today, there are a few issues, and it could be that the beta that was just released update fixes some of those too.
So I know that one of the questions that a lot of churches that are thinking about making the switch to ProPresenter that maybe haven't done a lot of their research, one of the big questions is, how does ProPresenter handle on-the-fly changes in the program? So let's say the worship leader is, feeling the moving of the Holy Spirit, and they say, hey, you know what, we're going to sing this song, and it's not in your contiguous view. It's not in your presentation. How easy is it to make those on-the-fly changes?
Yeah, so no problem. This is one of the advantages of worship software in general, that it's great for on-the-fly changes like adding a song or skipping a song. So in the library, I don't know exactly what's in here. Joyful. Let's say that I heard, the worship seat, or maybe it was even Hark the Herald Angels Sing. Let's do that because it's in the public domain. So it's the Christmas season, the worship leader says, and now I'm feeling the move of the Holy Spirit to sing that great old hymn about what the angels said. hark the herald angels sing, and then they go into uh, a couple of bars of that. That gives me enough time to type in hark, hit this, and now that's live as soon as my computer does it. Yes, hark the herald angels sing. Glory to the newborn King. Peace on earth and mercy mild, God and sinners reconciled. So that pops up just that quick. Now let's say that another possibility is that the worship leader did not feel a prompting of the Holy Spirit, is perfectly honest with this later, isn't like trying to blame the Holy Spirit, just forgot a verse, so is singing along on verse 1, because we all have those, and forgets to sing the chorus and hops right into verse 2. No problem. It's non-linear, so you can hop right into verse 2. It might take you a second to realize that the worship leader had forgotten it, but it's pretty simple. One thing that I love about ProPresenter is you see these colors? Every section can be a different color. So if you're like my church where we only have a couple of lines per, we don't have the entire verse, which if there's more than probably 5 to 6 lines in a verse, I would recommend you don't have that many because your eyes can get confused anyway. So you can have this set up. These 2 slides are verse 1, these 4 slides are the chorus, these 2 are verse 2. So every time the color changes, when someone sings something different, usually they don't hop into different verses in the middle. That happens sometimes, but generally speaking, it's at the beginning. So I only have to look at the first gray one here, the first yellow one, this gray one, maybe the red one. And so I have a smaller universe of possible slides to jump to. So that's another great feature.
Now, Paul, one of the caveats is as far as doing unscripted or adding unscripted songs is that they need to be in your library, which means at some point somebody would have needed to go in there and either create the slides with all the lyrics on them, or you can have a subscription, I believe, to, is it Song Show or Song Show Plus or CCLI, something like that, where you can go out.
Song Select. Yeah, it's Song Select, which is a service from CCLI. So that's an additional fee, but ProPresenter does allow you to do that. I don't have that here, but view Song Select. So that's actually even a keyboard shortcut. Alt or Option Shift S will take you directly to that, and you can search, let's see here, Amazing Grace, which you probably wouldn't but you can.
Yeah,
and if I had to log in, I would log in. So if you know that it's coming with 5 minutes, you can usually find it and get it in there. If the worship leader doesn't give you that much heads up, it might take you through the first verse to get to it or something like that. But last second, a lot of times that'll help, and quite often they won't play a brand new song unless it's something totally extemporaneous, and then you're out of luck. Unless you get a prompting from the Holy Spirit at exactly the same time, which has happened, but Unless that happens, there's no way that you're going to get some random Alleluias followed by "Worthy is the Lamb" and an occasional "He is so beautiful and wonderful" thrown in for good measure. You know, that's just not going to happen. But if it was a song that you've done before that's just not planned, yeah, you can do that. Or if it's a song that's in the database, you can do that as well. The song select database. Heck, if it's one thing that I love about ProPresenter is this feature file, import text from clipboard. So occasionally there will be a song that is just out there. You know, maybe it's something in the public domain that your church never sings, but the worship leader grew up on. That's okay. You just fire up the web browser, do a search for "Oh, How He Loves You and Me." I don't know. That's not a particularly out there song, but that popped into my head. You can do that, copy the text, and then click Import Text from Clipboard. I don't know if it'll do it because I don't have any text copied, but it brings up a little dialog where it says, okay, how do you want me to split up this text? And you can have it every line break, make a new slide every time that there's a delimiter of your choice, or you can just say bring it in as it is and then hop into reflow presentation and stick in your slide breaks there. And that's what I'd recommend.
So ProPresenter, in summary, is like a ridiculously powerful program. There is one thing that I would like you to demonstrate, Paul, and that was in that overview video on the beta page, they had that new message capability. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, I know exactly what you're telling me now. So if I go into messages here, I think it was this one. Yeah, actually it's this one.
Yep, there you go.
So you select visible on network, and I have already set this up. This message is like you would use in math class. They call them tokens. So I put in the message, will the parents of child blank please come to childcare? I've got this set up. Give me just a second for this to pop open. So this is the web address that I would give our child care worker who's in charge of such things, which is a local network web address. And they would get this screen, and we'll let that pop up here in just a second. Okay, and now all they have to do, clearly this is on the same computer in this situation, but if your network is properly set up, I believe that this would work, you know, even from an iPhone, Android phone, tablet, etc., that they could have this and say, oh, it's child 9876 that's having the problem. I click send. That shows up. Now, when I click on that, that shows up automatically down here. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it says, will the parents of child 9876 please come to child care? I can set up that to look however I want it. You know, I can change the template on it, etc. So that makes it really easy that they put it in, and then as soon as I click the notification, then it shows up on screen. So I don't even have to type anything. I can be going along my merry way during worship, and we get to a good spot in the service where it's not interrupting anything really important, and I just click on it. I don't have to bring up a dialogue. I don't have to do anything. So that's a new feature, and I think that's about one of the greatest ones that they've added.
As they say, I think that's the bee's knees, man.
Yeah.
The only thing that I would add to that
change it.
is I would love to see Renewed Vision make a mobile app just for that particular feature. And then I'd also like to see a clear button or clear option for the remote user so that they could clear it once the message is no longer needed. Once the parent or parents arrive at childcare, they can clear that message, and that way, it goes out of the queue, and that way the ProPresenter operator in the auditorium itself doesn't have to worry about clearing it unless it's up there, for 5 minutes or whatever.
Right. And it could be that it's in there. The new version of the remote app, which right now allows you to both observe and control. So you have a different set of logins and passwords for whether you're just watching what's going on or actually controlling it. And you can set that up in the preferences up here. And I think, let's see here. Maybe it was under network. Yep, it is. So I can disable observer if I want. And there's a stage display remote. That's something new that I don't know what it's going to do yet. So it could be that it'll have something in there and go from there, but I'm supposed to be getting an invitation for the beta of the app when that's available. I haven't heard yet, but last week they said that it was a couple of weeks out.
So maybe you could talk about how ProPresenter handles media in its library.
Yeah, so I think from a reliability standpoint, it's best to have it on the local system, just because network congestion, anything can have a problem. But let's talk about, this is a ProPresenter 5 feature. Here, let me bring this up, because what I can do, by the way, here are some labels that you can ascribe to media. That's a new feature. So right here, this folder is what's called a hot folder. So I added this, which you can add new hot folder. And then you tell it where the hot folder is. And anytime something is added to that folder, it's added into ProPresenter. Anytime something is taken away from that folder, it's taken away in ProPresenter. So there are churches that are using that to connect to a Google Drive folder or a Dropbox folder. And so, as soon as your computer syncs that data from, let's say, the main campus to a satellite campus, that new video automatically shows up in ProPresenter, and you can use it immediately. So, yeah, I can see that Betty Jane's happy about that. It's really cool. They also have a subscription service where you can do something very similar. This is It's kind of new in ProPresenter. They've added it in the last 2 or 3 years, I think, to compete with Proclaim, which I'm also, I need to return a call to Proclaim, but we'll talk about that on a future Hangout. So it will, so it's really cool that you could have multiple locations with media and have that sync automatically between locations. Or let's say that you're a volunteer and you do video editing at home, because don't forget that ProPresenter works on both the PC and a Mac, although it's a little bit better on Mac because they've been doing it longer. But if you're a PC person and your church has a Mac, you can absolutely create everything that you want at home and then have that presentation sync over Dropbox, Google Drive, or even Renewed Vision service, whatever that is. And then when you show up to church the next day, it's there waiting for you. So that's a pretty fun thing as well. Let's see here. I'm trying to read all the questions here. One thing that I don't know if there, I could probably find it, but when you first install ProPresenter, there's a screen that has some stuff here, including the, there's a link to free media that you get as part of your purchase price for ProPresenter. So make sure you look at that screen once you buy ProPresenter and download your free media. Worst case scenario, you delete it all because it's not your style. Best case scenario, you say, this is the best stuff ever, I'm not buying anything for a while. I don't know which it's going to be, or so, probably much more likely somewhere in the middle. But let me show you one other feature. This isn't a ProPresenter 6 feature. This is a ProPresenter 4 on feature. And speaking of media, we right-click on any media, click on Media Properties. Because I don't know about you, but this kind of looks a little like an inverted Christmas tree to me, like all these triangles. I'd really like it to be inverted, and I'd like it to be green instead of blue. So let's see if Media Properties is going to show up for me. Yes, it is. Okay. So what we do here is we go here. Let's put a color filter on that. Let's do a nice green. Bammo. Okay, that's good. Let's see here. Flip vertically. There we go. And let's change the thumbnail so that I know what it looks like. So I have this blue one. I have the green one. So now the abstract backgrounds that you get, you can reuse them multiple times without people knowing that you have reused them because you changed the color or you flipped them or you mirror it, you know, things like that. This isn't as advanced as bringing it into After Effects or doing something like that, but you saw how quickly I did that. No rendering, no exporting, none of that. Just, you know, if the worship pastor comes up to me after the first service and before the second and says, you know, I'd like that to be pink, I can say, sure. Which is what I like to do. I don't like to say no to the people at my church, but video takes time. This particular thing does not. So,
Paul, I think this is probably a perfect point to segue into talking about the importance of system requirements.
yeah. So we've seen here. By the way, There's pink. Here, let me quit sharing my screen so you can see my nifty new office.
Yes.
Just a second here. Oh, there we go. Here I is. So I'm doing all this on a mid-2010 MacBook Pro, which is the last one before they had the Thunderbolt port. But that doesn't mean that I'd recommend this age of computer for doing this live in church. What you want to do is you want to look at the system requirements and don't think, oh, I bet I can fudge it down a little bit. Think, okay, this is the bare minimum I should ever think of running this on, because we're doing some pretty heavy lifting with some of these things, like changing videos automatically to where they're different color, they're flipped and all that. One of my favorite things that I can do with ProPresenter is use a ProRes 4444 video, which is a special codec that includes transparency. So I can do all kinds of fun things. I might not need to do that as much anymore because of the new element transitions in ProPresenter 6. But if you try and do stuff like that with a computer that just barely runs ProPresenter, your results are not going to be good. They're going to be like when you run Hangout on a computer at the same time that you're showing ProPresenter 6 beta, which, as we saw earlier, could be a little iffy, especially on an older computer like mine. So.
All right. So that is a really great look at, you know, ProPresenter 6 beta at this point. I know that Betty has been chiming in with questions as we've been going through that. Let me go ahead and reload the page here, make sure I'm not missing any questions on the event page. It doesn't look like it. Betty, do you have anything else? I know Juan has been muted this time. I don't know if he's still with us or not, but I just love ProPresenter. It is such, it's like everything worship presentation should be. And you know, if they didn't think of it, then it's something that either they'll add in an update or they'll add it the next time around. I mean, very, very smart group of people working at Revision, and something that is really encouraging to me, Paul, is that, you know, they interact with their users. They take the feedback, and they're very interested in the feedback, because a lot of companies, they'll look at the feedback and they'll just kind of ignore it, saying, well, you know, that's not something that we think that you guys need, regardless of the fact that it's what we want. So, Juan,
yeah,
kind of watching in the background there, what are some of your thoughts? See if he can unmute himself. Oh, I muted him. How do I unmute him? Doggone it.
Well, while you're doing that, Tim, I'll tell you two renewed vision. Thing one is that they saw my initial reactions, and one of their programmers reached out to me and asked me all kinds of questions to make the software even better, because I'm probably an advanced user, but I'm not the programmer. So the Telestrator thing was one of those things where they said, oh, we didn't think anyone would use it that way. because they hadn't, when you make something, it makes perfect sense to you. So since I was seeing it cold, I did something that was slightly different than what they'd expected people to do. So that popped into their head. And I talked at a church tech conference a few years ago to one of their people who I said, ProPresenter feels like to me that it was not written by someone who church presentation software and said, oh, I want to help out. I'll write something to help you guys out. It feels like it was written by someone who did this at his or her church. In this case, it was his, at his church. And he said, I'm also a programmer. I think I can make something that makes perfect sense to me. And that's why ProPresenter, at least in my estimation, works so well, is because he said, man, sometimes my worship leader skips verses. Well, better make sure that's in there. Turns out sometimes we need to put up nursery numbers. Oh, another feature to add, and that's apparently exactly what happened.
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, it's presentation software for church built by the very people that are using this on a weekly basis. So it's absolutely fantastic. And one thing that I do want to cover before we wrap this up, that people that are not familiar with ProPresenter probably don't know about, is this layering capability. So being able to utilize different layers of content on screen at any different time, kind of independent of each other, and then how we can route those separately on output so that we have multiple screen capability with different content.
Yeah. Over, because there are several layers in ProPresenter. The top one is the mask layer, and a mask does not have to be just a mask. A mask can be a picture. So in this example, I added in a gradient and a couple of lines so I can put those there, or more traditionally, environmental projection, and you want to mask out the screens. So you have two computers, one of them doing environmental projection and one of them doing the side screens. You can mask those out there. So that's the top layer. The next layer is the props layer, which I don't think that I put in this, but I can go here and actually view props. And what they envision that being is like a bug. So here's my website that I've put in, and that doesn't matter what's on the main screen, that stays up the entire time. But again, you can use that for whatever reason you wanted to, so that doesn't have to be a bug of your logo. That could be anything you wanted it to be that's continually up while other things are going on. The slides themselves, so you'll notice that they change and this background doesn't change. The next layer is, I think, foregrounds. Might be, yep, foregrounds. Again, you'll notice these black bars and this prop is still there. So, and when I clear the background, you can't see the, here, let me go back to a background. You couldn't see this box here, but the boxes remain. Underneath all of those things, if I go to Actually, I was playing around with this earlier, so I'm going to have to actually change the preference on the live video from my Logitech camera, which is the one I'm using to my built-in eyesight. We're really going to tax the computer. Watch this. I clear the background and then go to live video. Here, let's make this shot a little bit better. So there I am, right there. I can cover me up with the background video. So cover that up with a slide. Over top of that is a prop, over top of that is a mask. So those are all the different layers. And right now I've got all of them running at the same time. So you have a lot of things you can do.
Right, and then I forget where it is, Paul, but if you had the multi-screen module installed, do you have that as an option even though it's not installed? Can you show them what that looks like, how you would route?
Yeah, hold on just a second here. Let me turn off this live video here.
Yeah, that would be good.
Just turned it on by mistake. Okay. Live video, turn it off. Okay. So the multi-screen, that is a separate module. I don't have the hardware for it, but if I go into preferences, advanced modules. By the way, I can do edge blending as well. Sorry about that. Okay, so now I'm in demo mode. I've got all these, we've got an alpha channel as well, and that you can buy a special module for. Tim mentioned this in his wish list. MIDI control that's been in there since ProPresenter 5. So you can actually, I can't remember if it's control from an external switcher or control of an external switcher with this. But all that to say, so now I've got all these on running in this demo mode. So let's see if I can go into multi-screen module. Where is that?
I thought that was in the preferences, but like I said, it's been a while.
Yeah. Now, there it is.
There we go. That's what we're looking for.
So, yep. So I can do triple screen, and this allows me to decide where I want things to be. So I can put props on all 3 screens, maybe screens 1 and 3, or the default, which was just 2. Slides. So let's say I wanted the church's logo in a prop layer on the center screen while I wanted the lyrics on the side screens. I can do that. I can have alternative templates.
Oh, we just lost Paul. I think his computer had had enough, unfortunately. But so essentially what you were seeing there was the routing screen, and it's really kind of set up as what we call a matrix. And so you can have any of the layers going to any of the outputs. So if you wanted lyrics to come up on 2 side screens and you wanted different content to come up on the center screen, you can do that. And what he was in the process of showing us was that you have these things called templates inside ProPresenter, and it affects how the content or the text is displayed at any given time. And what he was trying to show us is that you can have different templates, and you can have text displayed differently on each of the 3 screens, or on 2 screens at the same time with a different template in the center, whatever configuration you want. And having the multi-screen capability is extremely powerful. When they first released that, I think I was first introduced to ProPresenter back in version 4, and what really intrigued me was this props layer, and because it also has a built-in transparency, which is great. So what I ended up using it for was our video ministry, actually here at this church that I'm in right now, and we were running it on an iMac, and it would come out DVI, and I would run one of the outputs of the 3 that we had. One of the DVIs went into the DVI input on the Panasonic switcher that we had, and then I was able to do what we call a Luma key, and then I was able to use that for my lower thirds, like what you're seeing, let's see, right there. And so I was able to do that live, and all we'd have to do is build those ahead of time, and then we could just queue them up whenever we wanted. And if we had full screen graphics, then I could pull that up separately as well. And so having control over which layers are sent to which outputs is extremely powerful. Paul, it looks like you're back.
I am. So
I was explaining
that seemed
what you
to
were trying to
happen right when I clicked something, but it said it was.
We might lose him again.
What was that, Tim?
Well, I don't know. You just went quiet there for a second.
Yeah, sorry about that. I foolishly tried
process.
to add back in my lower third.
Right. I was explaining what you were trying to show them.
Gotcha.
So I think with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap up. But hopefully,
I think.
I think Paul is operating on something of a delay. Yep, and there he goes again. So ProPresenter is an extremely powerful piece of software. I'm not going to go so far as to say it's the right choice for every single church. It's important that you evaluate the options that are out there. Media Shout and Easy Worship are perfectly capable solutions. I think personally that ProPresenter has a pretty big leg up on them, and for a lot of reasons. But if Keynote, if PowerPoint is working for you, I think at the very least it's worth it to evaluate and look at ProPresenter to see how the choice of worship presentation software that you use can actually enhance your worship service to the point where more people are engaged. It's easier on the operators, and it frees people, particularly the musicians and the people on stage, to the point where they can kind of have some wiggle room as far as calling up scriptures in the moment, or pulling up songs, or skipping verses. Whatever it is that they feel like doing, it's our job to do what we can to support them. And Renewed Vision's ProPresenter really helps us do that. So with that, I really want to thank Paul for that in-depth look at ProPresenter 6 Beta. And I do want to point out that as of right now, Renewed Vision is offering a special that if you buy ProPresenter 5 after March 25, which today it is, it's April 2nd, you will get a free upgrade to ProPresenter 6 when it is officially released and out of beta. So that is a pretty darn good deal, if you ask me, and it's one that I would encourage you to take advantage of if you decide to go with ProPresenter as your worship presentation software. So with that, thank you again. Next week we're talking about Dante digital audio networking. Very, very exciting technology that is actually based out of Portland, my neck of the woods. So I may No promises, but I might actually be able to get somebody from Audinate who actually developed Dante to be part of our hangout and kind of walk us through its capabilities. So that would be really, really awesome. And as always, keep track of the Church Tech community or communities on Google+, and we will get that information out there to you. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.